some of our audience looks at me and they're like, I love seeing you and that's what I want. I want to go to client meetings and wear heels all day and have a team that works with me and juggle multiple projects and work on these high-end projects and stuff like that. And they can do it too, but just know how much work it actually took me to get to here. Whatever it is that people see. After 9 years of building my business, I turned the camera on a couple of years ago, but what people didn't see was the early days, the long hours and the blood, sweat, and tears, and the sacrifice, and the risk, and the loss, and the failure. They just see the glory and the accolades and the shiny side of it without seeing all the work that had to happen in order to build it. There isn't a formula for business success or entrepreneurial success. So many of you guys have been asking me, like, what courses should I take? How do I get to where you are? What do I need to do? Do you have any recommendations? You can't look at someone and go, okay, if I do these courses and then I do this is a next step and this is a next step and this is a next step, that's going to guarantee success. That's not how it goes if you want to have your own business. There isn't a roadmap for it. There isn't a guidebook. There isn't an exam that you can pass and then become an entrepreneur. It's like you really just learn by doing. That is the cold, hard truth. The reality of entrepreneurship is that often a lot of business people don't know what they're doing. Even though it looks like they do, you figure it out. Like, the thing with social media is that people see other people who have all these nice things and drive nice cars and maybe wear designer clothes and who travel all the time and who run businesses or live in these huge houses. And I think what that's done is that's created this idea that anybody and everybody can have that. And it is, in the sense that if you're willing to work for it and hustle really hard and sacrifice to get that, like, if you don't come from money and you don't come from a certain amount of privilege, then attaining that is a lot of work. You got to close that gap. If all you did see was success and it looks easy and all these clients or all these sales, I feel like you would constantly feel like you're just always failing. You never measure up and it doesn't compare to what the next guy is doing. Let me tell you that that is not the image of success, and that is not the image of a business owner's growth. For me, growth in the sense of our revenue is bigger, our profit is better, the team is more sophisticated, our systems and processes internally are better. That is all positive growth. And I think as a young person, you can have a lot of influences, whether it's teachers or parents who really want to have your best interest in mind and really want to mitigate risk as much as possible. As you guys know, it's not like a job where you've got a secured paycheck every 2 weeks as long as you do your job. As an entrepreneur, sometimes you don't know if a paycheck is going to come in and you don't know if a client is going to come in. Or you might take on a client or do a venture and you might not make any money. But I think all of that is part of the learning that you do. And I don't think that you should have the expectation that you're going to succeed right away either, as hard as that might be. As you're trying new things, failure is part of it. I will hands down say that the times in my career or life and in business that I've failed the hardest have been the things that have set me up for actually the most success. And if you're not failing, then you really aren't like trying and innovating. In the moment that you're failing, it sucks so bad, but there's always a silver lining to it. And if you can, get up and dust yourself off and keep moving on, there's so much that you're gonna learn and there's so much value that can be added to your business. The biggest moment of failure for me was in the first couple years of starting my interior design business, about 2 years in. And I had originally started House of Bohn with my partner at the time, my boyfriend, and we had initially started House of Bohn under a different name completely. And we decided to go into business together and do restaurant consulting and interior design joint venture. We decided that we were going to open a restaurant together. So we had borrowed money to get this thing off the ground, spent money during the construction and the build. We had leveraged our condo to do it. So we designed it, we financed it, we built it. And we thought that me being an interior designer and him being a chef, we thought for sure this was a sure win. There was no way we could fail. We opened the doors and 3 months goes by, 4 months goes by, 6 months goes by, and we were bleeding money. We're not even making enough money on a daily basis to break even. After about the doors being open for, I think it was about 8 months or so, we ended up selling the restaurant at a loss. So we didn't recover all of our expenses. Luckily, in that time, when we were still on good terms with each other, because at this point, after being together for 7 or 8 years and having a restaurant together, a business together, another business together, a car, a dog, a condo, breaking up at that point was almost like going through a divorce. But luckily in that phase, before we hated each other's guts, I managed to convince him to sign over the company, this company, to me. And then in the process of breaking up and dividing everything, because of the loss of the restaurant, I found myself personally almost $200,000 in debt and had to sell the condo after this breakup in order to clean everything up. It was brutal. There were nights when I would lie in bed and feel like nauseous and not be able to sleep well and not know, what was going to happen next, how I was going to pay this off. But the reason why I bring this story up and the reason why I think it's so integral to my journey is because I learned so much about partnership, so much, and not like a romantic partnership or a love partnership, but like a business partner and what that means. When you go into business with your partners or boyfriends or girlfriends or friends, just to be cautious because, it's hard to do that when you're young, but there's so much about business that you don't know. And you really go into it thinking like, this is going to be great. It's all going to work out. We're going to make so much money. We're going to have so much fun doing this. But there's so much more to business than that. And so the reasons I took on a partner today would be so completely different than the reasons I would have done it back then. I learned so much about contracts, what contracts you need to have in place, how to have them in place, what you should be negotiating. I learned so much about the restaurant industry and how numbers work. It was the wrong design in the wrong location, the wrong time. If it had gone any better than that, or if it had broken even, who knows where that path would have taken me. The fact that it was like such a failure, there was so much that I learned from that time. I call that time in my life like my business university. And you can't pay for that. I could not have gotten that anywhere else. I couldn't have gotten it in a classroom. I couldn't have read about it. You can only learn by doing. And through that and getting through that, I have definitely become like a way better business person, a way better negotiator today as a result of that. I get a lot of, have a big interior design following and students who always ask me like, when should I go out on my own? And I'm always like, what I did, I would not recommend doing what I did. Even though you learn a ton, just because in that first year or 2 years, this is before I started this company, when I was taking on clients, I made so many mistakes. And I feel like I probably could have at least learned a few more basics about just the industry and executing an interior design project before having gone out on my own. I do think that getting an education, whether it's in school or whether it's working for a company, is totally valuable because you get to see so much. I feel like you can learn, but at a less expensive cost. Like you could still be making a paycheck and learning at the same time rather than spending your own money to learn so much. I feel like entrepreneurship is not for everybody. You absolutely have to have the stomach for it. You absolutely have to be able to stomach those ups and downs. You have to be able to weather risk and be comfortable with risk. You have to be good with numbers and with people, and you have to be good at problem solving, because that's what you're going to be doing all day and all night.
I feel like if that kind of stuff really stresses you out and you can't handle it, then the entrepreneurial life is definitely not for you.
The day-to-day isn't glamorous, and I think that if you're constantly living for that end destination, I feel like you'd have a really rough journey. So if there's something that you can find today that you love and that's inspiring you, then zero in on that and let that be your fuel and your fire to keep going.